Michael Jaafar to talk about this case. Michael, what do you think about the approach? Because it does seem strange that he chose to go the side defense. Some other dude did it, and he brought in these two masked individuals. We see that sometimes where defendants get on the stand and say that there's these people that I can't identify, but they're the ones who did it, rather than saying maybe he came home and found his mother that way and just left because he thought he might be a suspect.
What you say is what puzzled me, right? Once the prosecution put him at the scene of the crime, he was only left with three really bad options. One of them is to say there was some sort of heat of passion. She was 77 years old. He was a convicted criminal at that point. That defense would have had a 0.0% chance of succeeding, right? The public hates attorneys. We are the most contemptible people in the country at this point, right? So he would have never succeeded with that. The only other two bad options were the defense that he ended up taking, or the one that you proposed, right? And I'm sure there was a conversation between him and his attorneys. He has a public defender, but they seem to be very capable attorneys. They must have decided that this was the approach to take. They couldn't have told him what defense to have. They would have had to goad him to it, and he would have had to tell them this is what happened, and they would have went with it. But once he was put at the scene of the crime, there was no good options. And the fact that this guy is a lawyer, that's why he had to take the stand, by the way, because he had no choice. If he didn't take the stand, he had zero chance of acquittal. But what's going in favor of the defense is there's no motive. It's his mom. She's 77 years old. There's no insurance policy. There's no will. He did not stand to benefit from this. And he, as an attorney, knew better that a 77-year-old woman wasn't going to prevent him from becoming a fugitive. If he was determined to become a fugitive, he would have become a fugitive. She wouldn't have stopped him. So at the end of the day, this is leaning in favor of the prosecution. The defense has a small sliver of hope that they have put doubt in the mind of the jury, but unfortunately, it seems to me like this is going to be a conviction.
I would love to know, we may never know, whose choice or if he went against his attorney's counsel in taking the stand, which sometimes happens, often happens too, when we see people who believe they understand the law very well and want to take the stand in their own defense. But Phil and Michael, don't go anywhere. We have more on the other side of this break we have to squeeze in. We're here to discuss this case. Michael Jaafar, I want to ask you about some of the evidence that they wanted to present that they say is incriminating. This is 18 deleted call entries, including one to the brother-in-law. So between those two people, the homeowner and his sister-in-law, that they have deleted entries. And the defense says that they had an expert look at their phones. They also saw 7 phone calls between the two early in the morning, 6 a.m. That's the same time that Karen Reed would have found her boyfriend's body, and then a deleted screenshot of contact information also around 6 a.m. So what do you make of some of this evidence that the defense says they've uncovered that shows that these two people were lying about what happened to O'Keefe?
This thing gets more bizarre every week. For a judge to deny a defendant the ability to question the evidence and question potential witnesses is beyond me. This screams appealable error all over it, right? Why? What's the harm of allowing the defense to examine a witness or 2 or 5 or 10? Why? Especially if they're pointing a finger in those people. You know, so the judge's job is not to defend potential witnesses, even if those potential witnesses are innocent witnesses, right? This screams appealable error all over it, right? So if the judge thought he was, you know, protecting the witnesses, well, he thought wrong, because this is going to be brought back down on appeal. If this woman gets convicted, she's going to be able to say, there were witnesses I could have examined that would have established reasonable doubt in the jury, but this judge prevented me from doing it, and he had no constitutional basis to do it. I had every constitutional right to do it. This is bizarre. This whole trial is bizarre. The defense attorney, who's doing an amazing job flashing pictures of the arm of the decedent, showing that he was bitten by a dog, and saying this was not a champagne glass. I mean, this trial is bizarre. This whole thing is bizarre. This is straight out of a movie. Whenever you hear the word cover up or I was framed, you have to hold your breath for what comes next, because what comes next is anyone's guess. but it's always bizarre. This one is living up to the hype.
And Michael, I don't know if you agree, but she seemed in that small interview that we just saw that she might be a good witness on the stand, and she probably won't be afraid to take.
She's going to testify. She's going to testify. She's going to testify. She's already preparing to testify. I'm also shocked if the judge was going to prevent them from bringing the witnesses. Why didn't he issue a gag order? Because she walked out of the court, and on the steps, she was speaking to the public, to the potential jurors and their family. So everybody in that locality, in that area, is watching this trial, especially the jurors and the family of the jurors. And they're making they're rendering an opinion from now, and they're hearing the defendant testify, not under oath, right? She's on the court steps talking to reporters, crying, being sincere, and they're seeing that, and it's cultivating an opinion in her favor. So for the judge to stop them from examining these witnesses but not issuing a gag order, it's so beyond me. This is strict. If I watched a movie and this was the plot of the movie, I would dismiss the movie and say whoever wrote this movie has no idea of how the system works, because none of this stuff would ever be possible. It's just Hollywood.
They will certainly have to take care of that publicity in jury selection when this case gets closer to a trial. All right, that there is the attorney for Stephen Bertolino. He represented the Laundrie family, issued a statement on their behalf saying that their thoughts and prayers are with the Petito family and they hope Gabby Petito would be found. This was about 2 weeks after authorities believe she was killed. Let's bring into the conversation homicide detective Phil Waters, who's joining us from Hawaii and in Detroit, trial attorney Michael Jaafar. Michael, I want to start with you. This is an interesting argument, not only from the plaintiff's side saying that his inaction caused our emotional distress. This is from Gabby Petito's parents, but also the response from his defense attorney saying that he didn't cause it, he just didn't stop that emotional distress from happening.
So, you know, this is a civil case, right? So they have to prove their case beyond the preponderance of the evidence. They're not, I'm wondering why they are going after him for intentional infliction of emotional distress and not negligent infliction of emotional distress, because that's a lower burden and they could probably more easily prove that. But I actually agree with the defense attorney on this. You're not going to be able to posit a claim for intentional infliction of emotional distress against a father who, your daughter's already dead, unfortunately, right? He didn't do anything to cause that. He must have, he was in possession of information, but even if he would have picked up the phone and called you and told you about it, what was it going to do? How was it going to reduce your emotional distress? What damages did his conduct or lack of conduct cause you? That, you know, they're an angry family. They lost their daughter. It's very tragic. There's videos of police officers, you know, interviewing her. She's crying. This is, in my opinion, the worst thing that could happen to you as a parent. And so they're lashing out. They're filing a civil suit. They can't sue, the guy who killed their daughter because he's dead, right? So they're lashing out. It's understandable. As a person analyzing the case, I can tell you they're not going to succeed in this case. But this is, you know, they don't really care about whether they succeed or not. They want to punish somebody, and they want to punish his parents because he's dead, so they can't punish him anymore.
Interesting analysis. I will say they did sue the estate of Brian Laundrie. Don't know the outcome as far as the number on that settlement, but they did settle with his estate, but now going after his parents' attorney. Phil, I want to get your take on this from an investigative standpoint. August 27th, 2021 is when they believe Gabby Petito was killed. Brian Laundrie comes home several days later, and his parents had already retained, according to the information, the attorney right away, and they weren't talking to anyone. There are officers searching for Gabby Petito across the country. They're looking for her body. Michael, if there is a verdict in this case, 59 minutes, if you're an attorney and you're getting a verdict back at that amount of time, what are you thinking as an attorney on behalf of your client?
It's over. I mean, if they come back in 59 minutes, it's done. It's over.
Yeah.
You know, there's nothing left. I mean, if this is what it is, the evidence is already too compelling, it's too strong. Once they put him at the scene of the crime, and the fact that he was already a fugitive, and there was just too much context with him stealing money from his clients, jumping bail, cutting the thing off his ankle, the tether, too much context. I mean, he took the stand for a reason. He had no choice. It was a Hail Mary. If the jury comes back in 59 minutes, that means that the defense attorney was not able to implant any reasonable doubt in their mind that he had killed his mom. And people already hate lawyers. Lawyers are contemptible. And now here's a lawyer stealing money from his clients and killing his family members. This is this is like the context that people have of lawyers, that they're villains. And so this guy's a villain. If the jury comes back in 59 minutes, they saw him as a villain, and they're treating him like a villain, and they're convicting him like a villain.
Michael, the way you tell it, his career path is an aggravator in this case. But we will see what this jury does. Again, this was really quick, and our crime and justice correspondent, Matt Johnson, said that the jury, while he was on the stand testifying, was chuckling. There was a jury member that he noticed laughing. We don't know why. We don't know what was going on in their mind, or maybe the circumstances, but doesn't seem good in terms of what they thought of him on the stand, and this seemingly bizarre story that he told about two men bursting into the home that he stayed with his mother, that they showed him pictures of his kids and said, if you tell anyone, that we will kill them. And that's the reason that he didn't call police, that he cut off his ankle monitor and just got away and hid for 8 months. Police couldn't find him for that long, Phil. This is one of those cases that surprises me that he was not too far away either. He was about 5 hours north of Atlanta, which is the area where he was. He was in Nashville, but able to stay off the radar for that long.